Hey, how's it going? I'm Jason and I own Impact Studio and JHR Photography. And so this is going to be a walkthrough of creating a custom GPT. So talking with you all today about getting set up with ChatGPT and really customizing it for your business. So I want to walk you through how to do that in a step-by-step. It should be fairly quick. If you have questions, definitely message me, email me, happy to help. But this should get you set up with a really cool initial custom GPT that works as an assistant for you. So what this requires is the paid account. It's $20 a month. Highly recommend it. It's best $20 you'll spend on your business and on yourself, and will save you a ton of time. So once you have that set up, this is your start screen. You're actually going to want two windows open to make this work easy for you, the easiest way to do it. And so start with both of them on the same window, and then I'll walk you through why we're doing it this way. So pick one to be your customized window. We'll start there. And the first thing you want to do, well, before we get started with that, there's three things that really you got to keep in mind with working with these. And it's really mindset about working with an AI tool. And this counts for any of them. Is that first, you want to make a complement, not a clone. So the idea is not to clone yourself into this or just create something that does exactly what you do. You really want to spend some time and think about like how you work best, how you do tasks, and figure out where your strong suits are, and let this fill in the gaps. So it really complements how you work, so it helps move you forward. So that, I think, is probably the biggest thing in a mindset shift, that you're really, if you were hiring somebody, you wouldn't hire somebody to be exactly like you. You'd hire them to amplify your strengths, fill in your gaps, and complement how your business runs. So think of AI like that. So that's first. The second thing is to think about it like a real person. This is, for all intents and purposes, you are hiring somebody to work for your business. You have to think about them like a real person, and how you communicate with them and how you talk to it. Because what that does is, it obviously they don't have emotion, but it sets your mind right to communicate the way you want to get your ideas across. If you know you're talking to a real person, you respond very differently than you do if you're talking to a machine or just typing into Google. So ChatGPT is not Google. It doesn't behave that way. It's a language model, so it works off of words and word structure and inputs that you give it. So the more you feel like you're talking to a person, the better instruction you're going to give it. And then the third thing is to let it know who it is. Opening up a ChatGPT window and saying, hey, give me marketing content, will get you something, but it's not going to get you exactly what you want. If you tell it that it is a marketing expert with years of experience in SEO and content development, as well as marketing strategy, it worked for Google and Meta and HubSpot, then it's going to bring as much of that knowledge that it has in its database to your task and apply it appropriately. So telling the GPT who it is and what its role is. We're talking a lot about marketing, so that's probably where most people start. But if this is your executive assistant and it's your email writer and your project writer or your communicator, it writes your public relations notes, anything like that, you want to give it a background with that it's an English major, that it studied wherever, that it writes in a certain style. And you can go as far as giving it certain styles to work with. That gets a little bit more advanced, but the more context you give the GPT, the customization, the better the results are going to be, and the more in your voice it will become. So those three things are really critical before we start this. And so spend some time with that. Ask GPT. Work with it and ask it to interview you to get your style, your writing style, your communication style. I have a custom interviewer that I built that draws that out, that I'd be happy to share. And it'll give you a personality profile that you can then use to create your compliment. But for now, we'll stick with the basics. We're going to go through the easy part, and that is setting up your first custom GPT. So from this screen, the first thing you're going to want to do is click on your little icon up here. This is the home menu, and you're going to want to go to Customize ChatGPT. So this is level 1. This is the base level of any conversation that you open up, the base knowledge that the GPT is going to have. So you're going to want to feed this what you want it to know. There's obviously your name, so it'll know what to call you. Kind of your background. You can put your activities, your business name, your owner, whatever you are in here. I use this for just some general information. And then this next section is what traits should GPT have? So this kind of sets the tone for how you communicate. I haven't really seen a difference between these two sections, but I gave this first section the general role, that it's a strategic business consultant focused on growing my company. It should offer MBA level insights, actionable recommendations, not just data, and always tie back to long-term impact and purpose-driven leadership. Those are the things that I value. Key focus, I gave it some KPIs, my metrics, and my onboarding goals. Tasks, general things that it should work on, which is, for me, marketing assets, onboarding systems. Very general. We're not specific yet. So you can play around with this. And the reason we have two of these open is you can come over here and say, I own a food truck business and I'm customizing my GPT. What instructions do I put in the general customization? And it's going to give you a start point. Anytime you get stuck, just go ask ChatGPT. So it'll go through there and give you some basic ideas to throw in there. Mine isn't listening to me because it keeps giving me emojis and I told it not to. But this is where you put that information. The second part is anything else ChatGPT should know. So this is where you can get a lot more nuanced in how you want it to respond. Like, I want it to ask me a question after it gives me a recommendation to see if there's more that it can draw out of me. I'm conversational. I don't want it to just be a transactional exchange. I want it to engage with me. So I give it that. I want it to reflect my style because it's speaking on behalf of me. And then there's other details, and this can get as nuanced as you want, but remember, this is general. So anytime you open it up, this is the start point. So that's level 1. And then you save that. One thing that you do want to activate on this is in the advanced tabs, is down here. You want it to be able to search. You want it to be able to create images, so click DALL on. If you do any coding at all, have it be responsive to coding because it gives it different models to work with. Canvas is a breakout that when responses are longer, it'll pull it into a side screen and it'll run the idea through there to let you approve it and move and manipulate it. It's kind of a nice feature. And then advanced voice. Not going to get into that with this video, but it's super cool and it works well, so you can talk to it and get responses. So you're going to want to check those off. So that's level 1. Now to make a completely custom GPT, you're going to go back to the same place and you're going to go to My GPTs. This is where you can create a custom GPT. These are all different bots that I've made for clients and for myself. I've got my whole management marketing strategy team built out in here, and they've got different capabilities. So we're going to start with yours. The very first one you do, there's 2 ways to do it. So let me go back. Create a GPT is where we're going to start. So it's the top button up here. And there's 2 settings in here. There's the create mode, which is where you talk to it and it will give you all the details. And then there's the configure mode. They both end up doing the same thing. The configure mode I like better because you have a little bit more control over it. You can take some time to refine it and you get access to additional tools down here that we're going to use. So to get started, what we need is you can name your GPT. So figure out what it's going to do. This is going to be, we're going to call it TestMex. That's what I use for all my testing. So that's his name now. Description is you are going to be my personal assistant for my new business. So you give it some general input right there. And then what's really important is this set of instructions. So that level 1 instructions is just the general stuff. This is where you can get really nuanced. What I did is I started with a prompt that is something like this. And I use a separate window for this just so I don't work in my original window. So remember I said you got to give it a prompt that tells it who it is, or you want to tell it who it is. You're an OpenAI expert tasked with creating a marketing assistant persona for my company. This persona should complement, if I can type, complement the way I work and support my company goals. We will refine this until satisfied with the responses. So ask me questions about my company and me to learn more. So we're prompting it to interview us. And this is the best way that I've found to dial this in. It's going to go through and ask you questions. It's going to, and you can say, ask me one question at a time, which is why I built a custom GPT to do this, because it's going to ask a bunch. But the truth is, the more time you spend on this, it will learn you. I just believe in shortcutting the whole process and tell it about you so you know what you want to get out of it. So spend some time, go through the interview, answer the questions, give it tone and style, and you can use references. If you want it to sound like Snoop Dogg, you can make it sound like that. But I use it for legitimate work. So spend some time with this to come up with the persona prompt, as well as the tasks that you want it to cover. And then when you get done, what you're going to have is a custom persona with guidelines for how this GPT is supposed to operate. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy out my persona and put it in here. So we have the instruction. All right, so I worked through the interview. I had some information before, so I prompted with that. But this is basically what you will get out of this. So I'm doing a demonstration building custom GPT, told this GPT to use what it knows about me, and then gave it the prompt that I showed you all. The more you work with this, the more we refine it, the better it gets. But this is the type of prompt that you want to get out of it, or type of result that you want to get out of it. So it's a marketing assistant persona, gave it a name, Harlow, don't know where that name came from. Action-oriented, brand loyal, impact focused. That's because I told it about myself and what I want out of my assistant. And the tone and personality that goes with it. Custom GPT, function as marketing strategist, creative executor, translate vision into action. So these are all things that are going to guide all the responses that come out of it. The strengths, being proactive, content alchemy, that's a new one. Owner mindset. So the more information you give it, the more precise the persona and the output will be. So, and it does well with examples. So if you have sample responses that you want, copy and paste that in. Say, I want my emails to look like this. I want my blog posts to look like this. And it'll work that style guide into its generated output. Those are core values that I have: to serve first, lead with clarity, vision, end with action. And then some questions, because I tell it to ask me questions. Would you prefer to refine the tone and capabilities here? So you can iterate over this. It's like, I like this, I don't like that. The one thing that I would say when you do instructions in here is to simplify it into plain text, like the bullets and the emojis are completely unnecessary. For this example, I'm going to say this looks good. Write the instructions in plain text. So it'll go through it. It's going to give it plain text instructions. And all you got to do after that, this is kind of a boiled down version, is copy it, go back over to here, and this is why I work in two windows, and then you're going to paste the instructions into there. Clean up anything that is unnecessary, which are like the responses. From there, now it has instructions. So based on that, conversation starters you've seen on there, based on this personality, I need 3 conversation starters. Give me 3 starters for the custom buttons. And so it'll give you some ideas. You can put in what you want, write an email, write a response, draft a strategy, anything like that. So we can put that in there, which is just a quick start guide. Email, write in post, review this document, and make, let's see, rewrite this document. So what that does is gives you quick little starters there. So that's step 2, is now this has custom instructions for a personality that you can interact with, and it should have enough knowledge about your business and the way you like to work that it'll give you much better responses. It now has persistent knowledge, which when you work off of the general GPT, it'll start to hallucinate after so many iterations, and then you can't really topic switch with it because it's going to get confused between if you go from marketing to strategy and planning or maybe a promotion. It doesn't have the full memory to that, just like we don't. It'll lose some of that memory off the back end and start to hallucinate. But doing it this way, we can keep it consistent on a topic because each thread is going to have that baseline knowledge. So tell me about your capabilities and roll. So this is where you iterate on it. Start giving it information, seeing what works, say, this works well, this doesn't work well, we need to adjust it, and then you just keep putting it back into those instructions. So there it is, instructions that we gave it. It will always work from that place. So we do need to adjust this some. Anytime you want to make an adjustment, you go back into the little character here, you go to Edit GPT, and this thing, they named it Harlow. So that's what I'm going to name it. And we can do something fun here. It can have an icon. Go back over here because this has imaging capability. Create an icon for my new, we'll do create profile photo for my new assistant, Harlow. And you can give it details. You can tell it what it wants to look like. But I'll just let this thing run. It'll grab DALL. No. Yeah, generate a photo. It gave me a prompt. A realistic photo of Harlow. So now it should do that. Wow. Interesting. So I don't have it open here. All right, so I got it to make the image. It was interesting, the prompt that it gave. So I guess I don't have the DALL turned on this, or there's an update. Sometimes it updates and changes things. But it gave the outfit, everything, and then this is the image that it came up with. So we're going to save that, and we're going to upload this here. Got an image, so now you got a real person to talk to, and that's really what we want, is a real person. So now you can talk to Harlow and get results. So that is building out the basis of the custom GPT. Now the next part to this, the third part of it, is giving it real background on the company. And so this upload files here, this is where you want to go in and give it your company documents, your company strategy, style guides, ideal client profile, your UVP, like everything that we've been working on this course. Once it's finalized for your company, you want to load this into the back end as a text document or a PDF, because then your agent can draw off of that to answer questions or to guide the content so that it's on topic for what you're doing. So I've got a LinkedIn post, a set of samples that I want, and a writing guide. So my writing manual for this, and a hooks formula. So I'll give that to Harlow. We load it up. Remember to update this up here. I generally don't work in this window just because it's a build window and I don't want to ever mess up my instructions. So I go to the View GPT and then I can test it. And so what Harlow's going to do is going to take this, search the knowledge database, and it's going to write it in the template that I set for it. So it's following my writing guide now, and coming up with the formatting and all of that based on my writing guide. And that is way closer to going into ChatGPT and giving it the same prompt. So if you give it the same prompt with no structure behind it, this is what you get. Very general, very broad, versus something that is very much on voice for what I gave it. So hit some of the same topics, but it's a much better product. So that's how you build a custom GPT. Once that's done, it's going to live over here on the left side. You'll see it over there. You can start a new conversation with it. So just remember, treat it like it's human. It'll help you. Tell it what its task and purpose is, what it's supposed to do, and you want a complement and not a clone. So you want somebody that really works for you and lifts up what you're doing, and that's going to get you the best results. So if you got any questions, feel free to message me, email me, reach out. Happy to help and dial this in for you. So if you got any questions, here to help. I appreciate it, and hopefully this gets you rolling. Have a good night.